Good afternoon, I'm Peter Conneely and I'm here to present Repurposing open source streaming software to provide online remote medical device use training, teaching and point of care simulation. Our team or working group was myself, Frank Horan, Brendan Toohey from the Department of Medical Physics and Clinical Engineering, Dr. Peter Moore from the Department of Anesthesiology and Intensive Care Medicine, Anya Binchy from the Neonatal Intensive Care and Caroline Hesham from the Department of Midwifery. As we all know, COVID disrupted training, but we still had many requirements even though the training was disrupted. We had to provide ongoing and refresher medical device operator training, but participants or trainers could not travel between sites. We had a limited number of possible in-training rooms, so it was difficult yet necessary to provide the same level of interactive experience needed to give good quality device-related training. The system, however, has allowed high throughput to be maintained and has received positive feedback from staff and is still in use even after COVID-19 is dissipating. When we analysed the systems, we found that in typical medical procedures there is use of a tool. So this aspect of the training had to be captured. There is also typically the use of a digital display, such as an ultrasound or a cardiac monitor. And finally, in any training session, a good two-way communication is always required. Trainees and trainers have to feel like they're part of the training session, and communication is key to that. So the goal of this project was to develop a telepresence system. The primary system build requirements were high spatial and high temporal resolution, greater than 30 fps, especially for cardiac imaging. The ability to indicate or direct trainees in a process where previously hands could be physically used to show the trainers, we had to direct them digitally. The ability to add instructional material over these feeds, the ability for good two-way communication, and on-the-fly repositioning optimization of the digital images and camera feeds. The system also had to be secure if patient discussions were being undertaken. Secondary requirements: the system had to be low cost, medical device agnostic, platform agnostic, flexible, modular, and could hold over 50 participants if required. So during the development phase, we looked at various realms that our discipline interacts with to see could we find solutions. When we looked within the hospital, we could not find any solution. When we looked at academia, we couldn't really find any solution. And even when we looked in the medical device industry, we could find solutions, but the price was prohibitive. So in our case, we looked at industries which use similar technologies and had similar requirements and see to determine if we could find a solution. And we did. We found video game streaming. In this case, although it looks different, it has the same functional requirements. It can display a tool, in this case a keyboard or a mouse. Two-way conversation can be had. And also high spatial and high temporal resolution feeds could be displayed. In this case it would be a video game, but in our case it could be an ultrasound or a cardiac monitor. So we looked at the technologies that these streamers use, and we found that they use OBS, the Open Broadcasting System. And this system is free, is highly flexible, highly modular. It can take feeds from multiple types of devices and is completely open source. In addition, the added bonus of this software is the virtual camera. This virtual camera takes the composite feed on the screen and sends this to any video conferencing system as a camera feed. This bypasses the slower temporal resolution feed from the share screen and uses the higher frame rate and higher spatial resolution afforded to the camera. So we can send high frame rate and high spatial resolution feeds through the camera. So here's a basic schematic of what our system looks like. Here we have procedural cameras, and in this case we just use webcams that we found off the desk, and these allow us to indicate the tool being used. In this case it was an ultrasound probe. We have a digital feed from an ultrasound, and to send this data to OBS we just need a video capture card, which we took off in the initial phases an old endoscope system. And we have the presenter AV, which allows the teleconferencing or two-way conversation. All of these feeds go into OBS where it's composited, and then it's sent through the virtual camera to the video conferencing system. And like we said, The video conferencing systems are the virtual camera is platform agnostic. So for my results, I'm actually just going to show you some of our training sessions. So here we have a Conneely presentation.
For the purpose of the scenario, there's no test drive. For the purpose of the scenario, there's no test drives.
We have the use of a tool, which is the T-piece. We have the digital monitor displayed in the top left-hand corner. We have a good room view, and we have two-way communication going on. And as well as that, we have the added bonus that we can see both the PEEP flow meter dial and the O2 blender and flow meter controllers, so that people external to the room can see what pressures the baby is getting and if correct ventilation is taking place. This is an added bonus compared to typical NRP training, which would have taken in the room, where trainees would not have been able to observe these features because the resuscitator or infant warmer would have been too crowded.
Common pitfalls, I suppose, with trying to acquire your fortune. Pitfalls, I suppose. And just before I go on, if I was to move back, just to say, remember this was our. Just before I go on, if I was to move back, just to say, remember this is our. Get to say our aortic valve.
You have the use of a tool, where the trainees can see the correct probe position in two orientations, and again, this was standard webcams. We have the high resolution, high frame rate image being displayed in the center of the image. We also have instructional material in the bottom corners of the image.
Administrative surfactant.
What we do is swaddle the baby so the baby's quite comfortable. So we just do is swaddle the baby.
You can see the orogastric tube going down into the stomach, and that's often what you'll see. You can see the orogastric tube.
We saw trainees demonstrating how to do the Lisa technique. Again, we had just two people in the room, but over 40 people attending this training session. They could see various aspects of the training, as how to prepare the baby, how to angle the laryngoscope, and to also see the feed from the video laryngoscope.
So now you have that four-chamber lead, so the tail down now. Tail down, now you have that inward chamber, not so much the tail.
So here, the trainee was in the room and the consultant was in theatre and couldn't attend the trainee's training session, but he could dial in on his phone and he was able to see the ventilator feed, he could see the ultrasound feed, and he could also indicate to the trainee how to correctly orientate the probe. And you can see here it's very clear that the trainee is engaged with the trainer because he's looking at the screen. So overall, the project was a success. We've had multiple training sessions of various formats, as you can see. We've had high attendance. We've even been able to live stream these sessions on Twitter and get viewers in the thousands. And to prove overall how successful the system is, even though COVID has departed, these training sessions still occur because the system is deemed better than the previous model, because there is more digital information and visual information being displayed to trainees, so that everybody has a fair view of what is occurring in these training sessions. Thank you, and you can contact me on my email address if you'd like more information on how to set up this technology in your own department.